So, welcome to today. I'm Christine.
I'm Liz.
And we are Double D-Fense. We're an all-female New York Rangers podcast, bringing you fun conversation about our New York Rangers, the NHL and hockey, and so much more. Thank you for joining us.
Well, hello, Christine.
Well, hi again. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm better. I know we missed a week, and you can still hear it in my voice because I was sick, and now I have some kind of allergy attack. And as you know, as we are both in Southern California, the air quality here has not been the best over the last week. So that's been a challenge.
It brings out our sexy voices.
Yes, this is much more sultry.
Sure.
I got to tell you, if you find a woman sneezing 20 times in a row sexy, you have come to the right podcast.
Hey.
So and we'll also talk hockey.
Yeah, we'll also talk hockey. So just a real quick update. We made it through the fires, and that's kind of Liz is a little bit closer to them than I were. I was pretty distant from them all. I know we would try to keep everybody updated. I want to thank a lot of people that we know through our social media reaching out to us at various times over the last few weeks. So recovering from year-end stuff, typical, flus and colds going around, and fires where the winds are so crazy that they are blowing the air for miles. It really is not good. And right now there is another one out there that is quite a distance away from us, but yet, it doesn't escape the fact that we know people and places that are affected by this. So we're kind of in the middle of it. And I'll tell you, aside from the fact we were talking about gross foods during one of the games when you weren't feeling well, I find that hockey, especially in the last 2 weeks or this year, has been a nice reprieve from the stress, of the everyday things going on. So we're not unstressful.
Well, I just want to say I completely agree with you on that. And I have to give a special shout out. First of all, yes, 100%. We had so many people reach out to us. So thank you. We're really grateful. And I think it got to a point that we were trying to respond to so many messages to let people know that we were okay, that we maybe didn't keep up with everybody. So I just want to say thank you for that. I also want to say an extra special thank you to the New York Rangers for not totally shitting the bed in 2025 so far, because we needed it so badly. Just as human beings living in Los Angeles in 2025, we needed them to not totally suck. And they have really come through. And I agree. There was a night that I was sick and worried about friends whose house was burning down, worried about my house burning down. And I was texting you and you're like, just watch the game, just relax. And it was the only thing you could do. Yeah, because at that point, you're so helpless. You can't do anything. The city's telling you not to leave because, they need to save the room on their highways for other people and you're not really in a danger zone. So instead of just doom scrolling and watching the news, it was very nice to put on the games and not see the Rangers totally suck. So I do want to say it's been a good
different kind of stress too, watching these games, right? Yes. So it doesn't get us away from everything, but it definitely kind of refocuses. And I think sports are kind of picking up to, now with just a variety of things going on. It's, and also, because the other thing I'm seeing is a lot of people now on the East Coast are seeing our frustration with how to watch the games. So it's funny. I saw a commercial for it last night. Did you see that? I don't know if you saw it. I don't know.
A commercial for what?
It was an advertisement from MSG to Optimum, and where they were basically calling them out for still taking people's money. So I know that people are complaining about MSG being greedy and not, and wanting more stuff, but MSG's putting things out saying that, they weren't, they kept trying to negotiate and it fell through, but that, they were still taking the people's money. So that was the advertisement, which is crazy. I mean,
Wow.
these guys don't mess. They put statements out. I don't know what happens with it, but we are not afraid to put the statements out.
No, I watch most of the games, as you know, on ESPN Plus. And I think anybody else who is watching on ESPN Plus, I feel your pain because all we see is the same Burger King commercial 1,000 times in a row. And I know I've texted you about this because
I know.
I was like ready to throw my television out the window if I heard that the Burger King song.
It's now made me very hypersensitive to the commercials because, you know, I thought we were watching MSG and that we'd see the same commercials, you know, even just I'm watching it through GameStar, you're watching it through.
But so we are, like, it's interesting. MSG must license their feed to ESPN Plus because I'm definitely watching the MSG feed. It's Sam and Joe. It's MSG is branded all over it. I don't get the pregame or the postgame. I get like a couple of, maybe a minute of the post game and then they shut it off. But I think it's different commercials.
That I know that was weird because I was expecting it since I'm always on a 2-minute delay. But it didn't happen. But every other commercial came up and they were terrible. So it doesn't matter. But now I was like hyper focused on that, which is pretty funny. So that, you know, it's interesting because I know people are really kind of having difficulty in now trying to get other resources and then being blacked out for those. So we have been talking about this for 2 years, so we definitely feel your pain. And with that, before we kind of get into the funness of the you know, the games and stuff, when we get into details, I'm going to put a challenge. I challenge anybody listening to do this too. Here's our challenge. It's kind of for you and me both. I think we're lucky in having the announcers that we have. I mean, and I'll segue into it, like with how they were talking last night about Kachuk. You know, I don't know if you heard them talking. They're like, he's the nicest guy off the ice. And then when he's on the ice, he's different. I'm like, yeah, he is. Yeah. So, but it's just, I think we have, and the fact that they talk so nicely about all the players and they're very neutral. And we've experienced listening to other announcers for other teams not be like that. So the challenge is, let's try listening to the game on a different feed, you know, for some of the other teams, just to kind of get, you know, something to kind of report back on and seeing how they're reporting it. You know, are they as biased as, you know, as ABC, TNT, you know, and ESPN. So, or when we see that, because we really kind of see that and notice that when we're watching the games on national broadcast. So, and some of them, as I've done in the past where I've had no choice in watching these, some of them have been fun. I mean, I remember one guy was old and mispronounced half of our team's names where I was like,
it was probably
who is this person? You know? And again, my favorite with that one was, it was a guy, he kept calling Laferriere, who's on the Kings. And then I think I posted it, and I love having some male person tell me that, well, you know, it's French, that's the way they pronounce it. Well, no, that's not true.
They're different.
It was
names.
just wrong. And then he kind of called Panarin by something else, you know, and so it was really, I mean, he just didn't get any better, which is pretty funny, but it's entertaining. So that's a challenge between the next maybe a month or so, is to try to watch the game on a different feed and kind of get a different point of view from it.
Yeah, I have to say, I think that, I'll have to pick it very selectively because, you know, obviously I want as much time with Sam Rosen as I can possibly humanly get in the next couple of months. But what I'll often do on ESPN, anybody who has ESPN Plus, maybe you've noticed the same thing. If you want any kind of pregame, the Rangers will not license their pregame to ESPN. The game starts literally, it will not turn on the feed until it's exactly puck drop. What the other teams will always do is you can watch their pregame. So I watched Utah's pregame the other day, and I actually really liked it. I thought it was really interesting because everybody felt like very young, very like excited to be there. There was a female announcer also who I thought did a really good job and really knew the ins and the outs of the team. So that's an interesting way to kind of see it too.
Yeah. And
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a kind of fun challenge. And I'm sorry you don't get the post-game stuff because, you know, there was a picture I sent you.
So I will get what ESPN, what MSG will do is they will release the post game maybe like a half hour later on YouTube. So I'll get like Steve Valiquette's analysis and John Giannone. That's cool. But I don't see like any of like the fun little moments. Sometimes I get the stars of the game. Sometimes I don't. But yes, Christine did surprise me. And we will talk more about what I thought was one of the most spectacular games of the season. But Christine sent me, I'm going to try to share it because this is, we do have a YouTube component. If you're only listening to us on Spotify or a podcast, we're on YouTube, so you can see us. You can see my nose run. But I'm just going to show this. This is the most recent Craig Benajad photo that we could find that Christine was able to get. Look at that. This is like OG 2023 vibes. They look like they're about to kiss. I'm here for it. I was missing this. So thank you for this.
I know, like we got to get back into that fan fiction stuff because we kind of missed out on that.
Nobody wants to write it when the team sucks. Right. So,
well, but also, someone like what I'm noticing, and this is what I love, is Will Borgen. Like he's just been all about protecting Igor and has made some incredible Igor protecting plays, this year in a couple of games. So it's been fun to watch, and I see a new bromance buddy.
Are you saying Borg-Sturkin
or Wilgor? Yeah, we were going through this. We're going to say things 10 different ways, but we're going to have to grow that and see how that's going to go and see. But he's diving and blocking shots in front of him and saved a couple of goals going into the net, himself. So that's been, that's going to kind of go into what, we're seeing everybody else talk about is, now that they're winning again and slowly creeping back up the ladder game by game, which is nice to see. We have a really tight, playoff run now. And
it's going to get interesting.
It's going to get fun. I mean, this is what it's all about, right? And now that we're looking back, so now you're seeing posts like, whether you like him or not, Jury did a thing, and he, is he to credit for it, or kind of like what Steve and Hank were talking about? Do they finally kind of learn to kind of fix their mistakes and start working better together? Are you guys ready for playoffs? You bet we are. And we're ready for NFL because it's just right around the corner. And you can get on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, right? And you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Are you ready to place your first bet? New customers with DraftKings you bet $5 and you get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So if you're ready to place that first bet, try betting something simple like player to score 6 or the first player to score at all, like which team is going to win. Make it easy, make it fun, and enjoy your first time betting on DraftKings.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
So what are you thinking? Are you thinking that Jury made the right moves in trading things and everyone's working better together behind the scenes to create this, or that that the bus has landed?
So I posted on Twitter a couple of games ago when the Rangers won. I can't remember who they beat, but they had just I think they had just traded Kako. I can't remember, but they won a game, and I posted in all caps, Jury is a genius. And it was being facetious. I was really kind of being sarcastic about that because I don't think that these moves have been calculated. I don't want to give him this credit because there was so much damage done at the end of last season based on the moves he was doing. So I think if this team is finding their way right now, I think it's in spite of Drury. And they're coming together because it does take time. Like anytime there's a change in chemistry in groups, like of course it's going to take time for them to mesh. I don't think that Drury's like a genius behind the scenes. I'm sure he will take full credit for it, especially if they can eke their way into the playoffs. I'm sure that there'll be some debates that are happening, but there's still very blatant things that indicate to me that he's not doing a great job. One of them is Kakko himself. I mean, the fact that Kakko was traded and is doing so freaking well right now for Seattle. He's having the most ice time that he's ever been given. He's pretty much scoring a goal a game or getting a point a game. He's doing so well. And I feel like for whatever reason, it was not happening for him in the Rangers. And the other person that I look to on that is Miller. And Miller was somebody who
Wait, you're going to say something nice?
No, I'm not going to say something nice. I'm going to say he's regressed so much, but I'm going to also
last night a lot.
But I'm going to also he had an okay game, but it's not enough. But he's regressed as a player. So to me, they're not developing their players the way they should. That role needs to fall to Drury to also help oversee that. So I think the Rangers are finding success in spite of him. My personal opinion, that may change, but that's where I see it. How about you? What do you think, Christine?
I just think that they're coming around, and and the fact that you have Cooley and Carrick and people scoring, that it's and they're getting out there and they're kind of showing, and it kind of forces the other guys to kind of step up, and that's kind of what I'm seeing, and kind of more of a natural reaction to things, and you give these guys ice time. So one of the things I saw someone had asked about was Rempe playtime. And well, first of all, when we spoke last, I'm I'm still a little confused on how he was able to sit at another game and then get called back up and work out that, finish out his sentence, of the games. And I was like, it literally happened right after we did our last podcast. And I'm like, well, that didn't go very well. So don't listen to that one at the end, because we were talking about that, or I know Matt was on there too. But rules are rules. It's fine. And so, but now that he's back, what we've noticed is he kind of came on and he's doing 5 minutes, and he's kind of up. Last night he played 9 minutes. So he's getting more ice time, and it's been fun to watch, because I know he's nervous about checking, because he does one little thing.
Because somebody described him. I mean, we've called him a golden retriever on skates. Somebody on X called him a giraffe on skates, which I think is actually probably a little more accurate.
Yeah, it's tall player syndrome. Again, I will reiterate to people who haven't listened to us before that, as a hockey mom, my kid's the same size as he is. So growing up, you just stand, he would get penalties just standing there. Matt would stand there and the kid would skate into him, bounce off of him, and the ref would be like, "You're out."
That literally happened last night. I don't think it was to Rempe though. It's to somebody else. Somebody else got that exact same penalty. But was it Cooley? I think it might have been Cooley. I don't know. He was just standing there, and the Ottawa player just skated into him, and they called him for roughing or tripping or something. It's bananas. The refs are bananas.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah. So we're seeing a lot of that. So it's been a crazy couple weeks. There's really a lot to talk about if you want to jump. So we're talking about our team, the Rangers, and this, again, we've in last 9 games. We've lost 1 game against the Capitals this year, earlier in the year. I think it was our second game. And so now we're undefeated in the last, not undefeated, but we not lost in regulation in the last 9 games. So we've got at least a point. Now I have to say, with the 2 overtime losses, these are ones where I think Quick was playing. So Quick is sitting at $3.99. I have the post ready to go. I'm like, come on, you guys.
Yeah.
But we've come, we had the lead and we lost it in the last minute, or two of the game. It's been crazy. Those are crazy losses in the overtime. But again, at this point in time, a point's a point, which is great. So, and last night was really last night was a game we kind of needed at this point, I think.
Yeah. So last night they played the Senators and the Rangers won 5-0. And I have to say, I think there were some of the best moments of the season that happened in that game.
Officially 5-0. I think it was 8-0 because every other goal got called back.
We should have a whole separate episode just on that ridiculous offsides callback goal thing, which I am so against, and I think everybody's against it at this point. I'm sorry, if the refs haven't called it on the ice, that should not matter.
That rules appears to be getting out of hand because it happens. But now we're looking at, and this has happened, this is the second time in not very many games where we've had the offside call, but it was like 4 minutes later, something incredibly long.
Yeah, there should be a statute of limitations.
That one, I would hope to see a rule update or change for that for next season.
Yeah.
Because if especially if it happens somewhere again, because now you're seeing these same coaches, who you are, that are really kind of relying on that, and they're always the same ones to make all the calls all the time. But anyway, yeah. So plus the high stick one. So we had 8 goals, but yeah, 5-0. 13, I think 13 guys had points or contributed. So that's the games we love to see.
Yeah.
When we're getting different scores by different guys and everyone's getting points.
And also let's talk about the passion that we saw. And by passion, I mean fighting. And by fighting, I mean Igor. Watching Igor get right into the middle of that fight was literally, I think it was, to me, the equivalent. And if the Rangers make the playoffs this year, I will absolutely point back to this game, the equivalent of the Trouba helmet throw from last year, where it's like, F all of this. It's time that we back people up. And I thought everyone did a really good job of that last night. Rempe got in there, and then Rempe scored. And I think you had a great stat about Rempe's goal.
I did?
Yeah, the height.
Oh, the height thing. Yeah. So between him and Edstrom having the assist, they are now tied for the 2 tallest guys to score a goal and a point at 13 feet 3 inches. And the best part about that weird stat, which I love weird stats, is that they're tied. So they're tied with Chara and then Dougie
Dougie Hamilton.
And Dougie Hamilton, who I didn't realize was tall. So it really, I'm actually going to do a little bit more research on this all, because I think Utah, is it Utah or Colorado? They've got, we're seeing more tall players. So, which I find interesting too, because this is when Rempe and Edstrom kind of came onto the scene with us last year, around this time last year, right? So, it's unusual that these tall guys can, because they had speed. So not only do you have a good wingspan, you can screen, which they should be doing more, as you know, that's the way I think. But these guys are fast, and Edstrom's been scoring, which is good too.
Edstrom's a really solid skater. He's fast. He can move quickly. Rempe still, there's moments where it still looks like he's learning how to ice skate, which is so funny. Yeah, but I think it's just like where all the limbs are,
He had a play last night that reminded me of my son, because he somehow kind of, stole the puck and, right in the middle, and then kind of took it, for a bad backhanded shot. And it kind of reminds me of Matt. My son grew up playing hockey, but was never fast. But again, he had this big long stretch, and that's what Rempe did. He just kind of reached to stick out and then grabbed it, and then took it. And Matt did that once we were playing in Valencia, and it was only the only goal that we scored, but Matt he just didn't give up. He went out there and did it, and somehow got the puck and took it and scored, and we got praise from the whole team and their coaches from just the way he did it. That play kind of reminded me of Matt doing that. And but Matt, my son was never fast, play. So it's really fun to kind of see these guys have this big, and I don't think Char was all that fast either. So, there was a day where he was the only guy that was tall, and he was a tower compared to everybody else.
I'm sure it has to do with sort of new styles of coaching and new styles of strategy for these teams. like you were talking about, Christine, I think screening is a really big part of the game now. And I think that now, like, there's so many sophisticated ways of looking at how to coach and how to win a game that they have to look at everything. So I think there's more body types that can be utilized. And I'd be very curious, and maybe this is something we can do, as we get later in the season. I'd love to talk to coaches to hear more about how are they encouraging younger players? What does that look like? Do you take somebody who, maybe it's a kid who's like, oh, I want to play basketball because I'm tall. You can go, learn how to skate, and there's going to be a place for you. So I'm just very curious about that kind of player development
and where they kind of come from. I love seeing kids that, I was talking to a football player on the Rams who played soccer until he was in high school and somehow ended up playing football. So I love those kind of stories too, and kind of how they develop. But it kind of going back to like the styles and everything, this is kind of what we're hearing too with when we're getting bashed on not having good defense, or getting everybody scoring on Igor and that he should stop these things, is that one of the other players, it might have been Steve or somebody talking, somebody was talking about, a lot of these guys are taking more precise shots, so we're not seeing it there. So it's growing, and it's evolving too with how the players are doing these. Some teams don't take all the shots; they're trying to take the better ones, and then when they do, they score. And that's why we're kind of seeing, they're scoring on the first shot of the game, or within the first few minutes, that we don't want to see, knock on wood, So that's kind of interesting, because you don't think that, and this is why I don't like, and we kind of talk about this too, I don't like comparisons from year to year, because every team changes, their styles change, some get better, some don't progress, no one gets worse, they just get older and different, so everything's different, nothing's the same year to year. And but it's interesting to hear from professionals and people who know it better, like how they're seeing it evolve in a smarter way, which means they have to get to be smarter players. And we're finally realizing that. I think they, these guys are kind of, getting through the course and kind of learning. And that was the kind of the props they were getting last night. It's like, if they had a kind of deficiency somewhere, they were correcting it better and quicker and stepping up. And as a result, we had a second shutout in a row for Igor, and there's a good feeling going into the next week of these games that are all within our own division. Everybody's hot right now and winning, so this is where and why we're going to have a tough stretch over the next week.
So, and let me ask you, Christine, are you seeing much? I mean, I was reading this week about the trade rumors with about JT Miller and possibly trading Hedel and Lindgren and R. Miller. I've heard about everything under the sun in this last week with JT Miller from the Vancouver Canucks. So I don't know. Have you read anything? Do you put much credence behind some of this? Do you think it'll happen?
If he does anything now while we're on this win streak, it's insane. So I can't say anything's out of, out of the mix. If we lose 2 games in a row, heaven forbid, the world will explode as it does. But again, I don't play into any of the rumors, and so, because again, I think there are other conditions along the lines of these 2 trades that we did have that are unusual. So, I truly believe that the reason Kako was traded was because he spoke up. So it's unfortunate, but I'm glad he's happy. I'm still following him, I'm still a fan, so I'm excited for him. So that's not going to change, and we want to see. So has everybody fallen in line, in agreement or in spite of, to what we're talking about? Whatever it is, it's working, and they really just should be seeing the prize at the end of the road. I kind of had the feeling last night, I'm like, wouldn't this be great if like this was really the year, and somehow, it came through. So, but again, you can only kind of go through it one game at a time.
Yeah. And obviously this calendar year looks different than last year. I also want to mention Kaliev. So that's the player that the Rangers picked up from waivers from the Kings. He had a pretty good game yesterday. Like between him and Borgen's had, some some good moments and not great moments, but the two of them are showing to me what looks like a lot of passion and excitement for being there, which is really nice to see. So, maybe that chemistry keeps working together, and maybe Jury actually is like the evil genius pulling strings behind, doing things behind the scenes. Who knows?
Okay. Can you hear me rolling my eyes?
I've had a lot of cold medicine at this point, so I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. I'm just babbling.
But hey, like it's just been fun. They've been fun to watch, and we're back in our normal routine of like we have our stressful moments. We did see an attempt of a goalie goal on Igor. So when that fight broke out, again, I'm delayed. So Liz and I communicating through a game is interesting. So even if I don't look at the phone, I know something's going to happen. But most of the times I'm like, okay, let's go for it. But also, I kind of I'll miss the first period or so if I'm at the gym. But I listen to it, so it's kind of fun to kind of get the listening part of it. And the best part about that is, and it's not the best part, is when I'm done with the gym, I get into the car, I plug in the phone, and I throw it on the radio. And it's usually during a commercial where they're replaying like Mark Messier's goal from like back in '94. So all it is like a goal horn and a cheer. And so every single time I'm like, we scored, and I'm all excited. And then I realize it's just commercial. Yeah. So it's kind of fun with the different aspects of kind of listening to it, because the radio's got, these guys are great on the radio too. And giving the perspective. I think they get a little bit more frustrated with things, and so a little bit more vocal about it too.
I think they can be. I think contract-wise, they're legally allowed to be a little bit more honest. I think Sam and Joe have to keep it a certain amount positive, like truly. And it's been nice that the Rangers are now finally giving them something positive to talk about.
I like it.
Yeah.
You see that game. I'm not going to even go in the team or anything, because guys will know it. I'm not thinking about it right now. But like last week, there was the guy who got the hat trick and he scored a goal. Okay, so it's a whole crazy game where they it was in overtime. The guy scored, like he goes to shoot the puck bounces off the net and comes in, and then he gets slashed by the player. His stick gets slashed in half by the opposing player, and then he was immediately awarded a penalty shot. But there's a rule, and this is the first time we've ever seen it, that there's a rule in the NHL that if you get a penalty shot on an empty net, it's an automatic goal. So, and the best part is that team had no shots in the entire third period. So they actually scored a goal with no shots on the net.
I love seeing stuff like that. That's so fun.
So again, more weird stats, but at the same time, we were kind of seeing that last year, and this kind of goes back to more ref stuff and their, and kind of what they're doing, because the calls are, again, the calls are wishy-washy sometimes, and really soft, and sometimes it seems biased, and the reviews, and again, they're only reviewing themselves when they're reviewing plays. So, they're automatically, judging their own selves, and they have egos on that too. So it's crazy to see some of these like really like Rule 34B/1C coming into play, for some of these games. And it kind of makes me curious as to see like if they're going to up and change it for next year, especially this delayed offside call thing.
Yeah.
So, and we got hit with it twice. I don't know if other teams are getting, calls like that with such, strong delay. I think that it's like, at least they're still in the zone, because that's what they're saying on the radio. It's like they kind of hung out in the zone to kind of wait for the call, so then, then that's, I don't like that kind of stuff. So, yeah. But we're going to see, that was fun to watch. Again, if you have a day off and you're not wanting to watch, a game, or you have nothing to do, don't forget, PWHL, they're still going. Those plays are great. You'll see me posting some of their plays because they have amazing plays. Sarah Nurse had one where she passed it back in midair for a score. And, some of these guys can take some notes with the women on the PWHL, and their games are going strong. And they're doing some trades this week. They traded some players back and forth. So, so that was good. And I have to say too, if you're following the PWHL and the teams, they're really coordinated in how they post stuff, which I really like. So like on Martin Luther King Day, it was really sweet where they all posted kind of different messages for the team on the team pages and did that. So I like how coordinated they are in their social media and getting things out. So that's pretty fun to see and watch.
Yeah.
And then we have, the Four Nations game coming up, and that's kind of what we were talking about before we started. So we're trying to think if we want to do like a themed food thing, but then we realized Finnish and Swedish food are kind of gross. So
well, there's definitely meatballs. Like we might not do a can of fermented fish, and I mean this with no offense to Swedish and Finnish people, but wow, I've tried it. I've been to Sweden. I've not been to Finland. I've been to Sweden, not Finland. But wow. But we should share some content when we have that event.
That's coming up very quick.
Yeah.
And again, so this next week or two before before that break starts is really critical, because as you know, and this is what I always say, like when we come back from that break, it's gonna be a home run derby happening. We've moved up. I was looking at this morning. So we've moved up, we were down at like 25, but we're creeping back up into the teens, which we were in like spot 17, 18, 19 around this time last year too, from what I recall. Could be wrong.
We're in 5th place in the Metropolitan. I think we're still technically out of a playoff spot, but there's a lot of teams that are all right around the same.
We're only it's only a 2 or 3 point difference.
Yeah, but we're all right around the same.
Us vying for it, and unfortunately, in our division, there's a little bit more points to kind of get into that spot, which I don't know necessarily if it's reachable. So it's definitely going to be a fight for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the next couple of games are going to get really interesting. We play the Flyers tomorrow at 4:00 our time, so 7:00 Eastern. Then we have the Avalanche, then the Hurricanes, the Bruins, the Golden Knights, the Bruins again, the Rangers, and the Blue Jackets. So there's a lot of. Yeah, the Bruins are going to be interesting. The Blue Jackets will be interesting. I mean, there's some games that will be very meaningful coming up in the next few days.
So what I want to see is we need to win, and the other teams, because this time last year we were winning, but everybody else was tying. So there was like a tie thing going on everywhere.
Right.
We didn't get ahead anywhere. So everybody else, you guys can lose and take a break. Give us a chance to kind of really get in the mix, because it'll make it fun for you and for everybody. And
we've been givers. We've been giving to you all season. It's time to return the favor.
I'm gonna have to bring that magic 8-ball in here, like the next time, and so we can see what we can do.
I think that's a great idea. We can, we'll do a couple of things, and I want to do special Valentine's Day episode as we get closer to Valentine's Day. About some little poems about our favorite boys in blue, because they're being fun again, and I like that. That makes me very happy.
It is good, So
on that note, Christine,
you guys, and and all the best, until we meet again.
Yeah. Be safe, be healthy. We'll see you guys soon.
Be happy. Yeah. Go Rangers. Let's go.